Hi friends, how are you today? We're going to keep talking about our homes and houses, and some people live in different kinds of houses, maybe an apartment, a townhome, or just a house. Houses are different sizes, and animals have different kinds of houses too. Birds have nests, and some animals live in holes or trees or logs. And today, everybody loves their house the best. Today we're going to read a book, The Best Nest. And these birds think that their house is the best. Mr. Bird was happy. He was so happy he had to sing. This was Mr. Bird's song. I love my house, I love my nest. In all the world my nest is best. And there's Mrs. Bird inside, and there's Mr. Bird singing. Then Mrs. Bird came out of the house. It's not the best nest, she said. Uh-oh, look how sad Mr. Bird looks. I'm tired of this old place, said Mrs. Bird. I hate it. Let's look for a new place right now. Oh. So they left the old place to look for a new one. This place looks nice, said Mr. Bird. Let's move in here. See, there's a hole in the tree. But somebody else had already moved in. You see who already lives there? A raccoon. Look where they think they might live next. So they looked at another house. This one looks nice, said Mr. Bird, and there's nobody in it. There's an old boot that they might make a nest in. Uh-oh. You're wrong, said Mrs. Bird. This house belongs to a foot. Oh, there they go. So they went on looking. I like this one, said Mr. Bird. It has a pretty red flag on the roof. What is that? It's not a birdhouse, it's a mailbox. I've always wanted a house with a flag, said Mrs. Bird. Maybe this place will be all right. But look who's coming. But it was not all right. I guess I made a mistake, said Mr. Bird. Oh, there goes the mail. You make too many mistakes, said Mrs. Bird. I'm going to pick the next house. And here it is, right here. Oh, look, they're flying in. That looks like a church. Oh, that is a big bell. They flew in. They looked around. Isn't it too big, asked Mr. Bird. I like this big place, said Mrs. Bird. This is the place to build our new nest. They went right to work. They needed many things to build their nest. First, they got some hay. Oh, make it soft. They got some soda straws. The broom straw. They got some sweater string. Oh my goodness. They got some stocking string and mattress stuffing. Wow, they're going to build some nest. They got some horsehair. They got some man hair. It's going to be some nest. Look at all that stuff. Then they had all the hay, all the straw, all the string, all the stuffing, all the horsehair, and all the man hair they could carry. They took it all back to build their nest. They're going to go right in there. Mr. and Mrs. Bird worked very hard. It took the rest of the morning to finish their nest. This nest is really the best, said Mrs. Bird. I want to stay here forever. Ooh, look at that nest, and it's right on top of that bell. What do you think might happen? Mr. Bird was very happy too. He flew to the top of his house. He sang his song again. I love our house, I love our nest, in all the world our nest is best. He was so busy singing, he didn't even see Mr. Parker coming. think might happen with Mr. Parker and that rope? Every day at 12 o'clock, Mr. Parker came to the church. Mr. Parker came to pull a rope. The rope went up to the bird's new nest. Oh my goodness, if you guessed that the bell was going to ring, you were right. The rope rang the big bell right under Mrs. Bird's nest. It says, bong, bong, bong. Oh my. Mrs. Bird got out of there as fast as she could fly. Oh my goodness, there goes Mrs. Bird and Mr. Bird. When Mr. Bird came in, all he could see was the mess of hay and string and stuffing, and horsehair and man hair and straws. Where was Mrs. Bird? Oh, he didn't see her fly out. I will look for her until I find her, said Mr. Bird. He looked high, he looked low. He looked everywhere for Mrs. Bird. Uh-oh. He looked down into a chimney, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. I think that's a good thing. Look at all that smoke coming out. He looked down into a water barrel, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. Then he saw a big, fat cat. There was a big, fat smile on the fat cat's face. There were some pretty brown feathers near the fat cat's mouth. Uh-oh. What do you think Mr. Bird's afraid happened? Mr. Bird began to cry. Oh dear, he cried. This big fat cat has eaten Mrs. Bird. Uh-oh. Mr. Bird flew off. I'll never see Mrs. Bird again, he cried. It was getting dark. It began to rain. It rained harder and harder. Mr. Bird could not see where he was going. Oh dear. Crash! Mr. Bird bumped into something. Uh-oh, I wonder what he banged into. It was his old house. That old house that Mrs. Bird hated. I'll go inside, said Mr. Bird. I'll rest here until the rain stops. Mr. Bird went in, and there was Mrs. Bird sitting there singing, I love my house, I love my nest, in all the world my nest is best. And look how happy she looked. Look at that nice nest. You here, gasped Mr. Bird? I thought you hated this old nest. Mrs. Bird smiled. I used to hate it, she said, but a mother bird can change her mind, you see. There's no nest like an old nest for a brand new bird. Look, there's an egg and they're going to have a baby bird. And when the egg popped open, the new bird thought so too. I know we like our house the best too. Maybe you could go outside. Look and see if you can find some bird houses or bird nests. Maybe look in the ground for some holes that an animal might live in, an animal home or a log, and see what animal homes you can find outside. I hope you have a great day. I love you.